All right, welcome to episode number 12 of the Learning React in 2021 series. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about refs, createRef, and useRef, and we're going to do some adjustments here. Right now, we've got this working so that if I go to films, I get a list of films. The fetch gets done. If I go to people, I get that. If I go to planets, I get the list of those. And we can drill down and get to details here. So what I want to do is I want to combine the way that change the way that films and planets work so they're running the same way as people. Now I did this before starting the video here. And what I did was inside of main, I made a change. This used to be just when the page loads, I'm going to fetch the people and save that inside of main. So that was my state called people inside of main. All I've done is change it from what was in the last episode is I've created a variable for planets and films that does the exact same thing as the one for people. And inside my use effect, I'm not just checking for people. I'm also going to look for if my current route is films, then I'm going to fetch films. If it's planets, I'm going to fetch planets. And only if this route is changing will I actually do the fetch again. Okay, simple enough. I'm watching path name and I'm going to make that change. Now, my path is coming from the useLocation hook, same as it was before. And I've taken the URL and I've made it something sort of global, a base URL that I can then add on. What I want to change now is I want to be able to put the keyword in here. So as the user comes in here and writes a search term, so let's say Hoth. Well, if I'm on the film list page and I search for Hoth, I shouldn't be getting any results back. If I'm on the people, nothing. Planets, yeah, okay, on planets, I should find a match. But if I search for Hoth, and I've got this in a global location where I'm saving that search term, and then I navigate away from planets onto people, I want Hoth to disappear. I don't want that keyword that's saved globally to be applied to the results of this search. So as I'm moving between them, I have to be able to monitor this and say, okay, you were on people, or you were on people/4, and now you've gone to films. So this first part of the URL, people or films, that part has changed, meaning let's clear out the search and just do a base search. Get all the results instead of going and drilling down and applying this new search to a new set of data. We don't want to do that. All right, so let's delve into that. We've got these changes made in main. In search bar, right now, what we're doing is, this is from before, we've got the button search. When I click on that, when I submit this form, I'm going to call this function called submitted. When submitted runs, I'm going to pass the form. Inside the form, we're going to get the thing called keyword, which is this input, and I'm going to get its value property. Now, this is directly going at the DOM. It's using plain old vanilla JavaScript to access something inside of there. This is what ref is meant to sort of help us do. Instead of this, what I want to be able to do is I'm going to create a reference to something on my page. So let's say input ref. That's going to be my input, and I can say react.createRef. So this is one way of doing it. Now, I don't have React. I'm going to have to import React, or I can import this createRef directly instead of doing this. So I'm going to do that up at the top. I have to import something. Why not just the thing that I want? So createRef from React. There we go. Now I have this, and I have basically created this ref object. And when you call createRef, what you're going to do is you're creating a container for a DOM element. That's what this does. So input ref, that is going to be my empty object waiting to hold something. Down here, all I have to do is add the ref attribute, and I provide the variable. This line right here, this attribute, what it's going to do is it's going to look for that variable and say, okay, I'm supposed to put a reference to this input element inside of there so I can reference it later on, which is what we're doing right here. And I'm going to put in place of this inputRef. Now, inputRef is the container. It is the reference object. I want to get inside that and get to this input. And the thing that's inside of it is always held in a property called current. So there, I've made 0 changes to what's actually happening on the page, other than the fact that I now have a reference to this input element, so I can get to the value like this without using any vanilla JavaScript. I'm using the React way of accessing DOM elements. Okay, so that's number 1. Now, I want to pass my keyword up. Inside of app, this is where we've got our search bar. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this. Right now, I'm saving a history. I've got terms, and it's an array, and I'm saving every search term. I really only care about one current one. So I'm going to remove all this, the stuff that I had there before with dealing with that array. And I'm going to create something else called keyword. This is going to be my new state variable, keyword, where it's either going to be blank or it's going to be the thing that I'm currently searching for. So let's create const keyword and set keyword, use state, and the default is going to be an empty string. So keyword is an empty string, and that's what I'm going to pass down. So when search bar loads, we're going to be looking for the thing inside of props that is going to be called keyword. So let's do this. Const keyword equals props. So we're using destructuring to get keyword out of the props. And then I'm not going to actually write it down inside of here. I'm not going to replace the value. The reason that I don't want to put the value here is if I do this, if I say value is keyword, okay, I'm taking it from the state inside of app, passing it through the props, and I'm writing it out here. If I don't add an onChange event listener right here, so the synthetic onChange event, if I don't add that in here, what this will do is automatically turn this into a read-only element. So React says, okay, well, you're only doing half of the process. You're not dealing with what happens when it changes. So I'm just going to make this read-only so the user can't change it. I don't want that. So next option is kind of to use default value. Okay, when the page loads, this is what I want there. That's great, but it's not just on the initial load of the page that I want this. It's updated. So I'm going to have state changing, passing through possibly new props. When the user types this new value and they click submit or they hit enter and they submit the form, I'm going to pass the new value up to app. App is going to save it in state, update that, which is going to update the props that come back down here. So instead of trying to force it into here, I'm going to take advantage of that whole rendering process, and I am going to create a useEffect here. useEffect. And we'll do it this way. So inside useEffect, I want to know on the initial load plus if keyword in app changes. Those are the 2 times that I want to change. So I have to watch for keyword. That's my prop that's coming in. That's the one that we got right here. So when that changes, as well as with my initial load, that's when I want to make changes. And what do I want to change? InputRef. So right here, we'll say InputRef dot current, because this is the actual thing. InputRef is the ref object. Current is the actual input HTML element, the DOM element. And I'm going to change its value to whatever keyword is. Okay, so useEffect is red, so I need to bring that in. Up here, useEffect. Okay, we have now our ref created. And let's move this up to the top here. So we're declaring variables. My use effect, whenever the keyword changes, we're going to, oh yeah, it's also looking, hey, you've got this thing called input ref. You're not watching that. Now, by adding another dependency here, it means if input ref ever changes, if it points to something different, this will run again. That's not going to happen, so this will never trigger anything, so it's fine to put this in as a dependency. Keyword is the thing that's going to be changing, and whenever it does, that's when we'll update what's written inside of there. Okay, so we've got the re-rendering of the search bar working, tied together through our createRef that we loaded with the ref attribute here. We've got updating happening for what's written inside of here if we've saved a new one. What I want to do is I'm going to change this. Instead of add term, I'm just going to save the search, save the keyword. Let's call it that. Let's make something up inside of app called save keyword or save search. Yeah, I'll use save search. And I'm going to pass that function down through my props. So back up in app, I now have to change this to save search, and we'll create a function called save search. It'll be very similar to what we had there before with the add term. So function save search. This function is going to be passed down. This is the one that's going to run when the person submits the form. When they have submitted this form, so they've either clicked on the button or they've hit enter to submit it, we're going to pass up whatever the current value is inside the search. We're using our ref to get to that. Back up here, it means I'm getting some keyword that's being passed up, and I'm going to now call set keyword. I'm going to update my state with this new term, whatever it is. Okay, and there's our circular thing. That should be working for us now. Let's just go back to home. If I search for Hoth, search, it submitted the form, and if I go into the components here, and if I find my app component, there we go. That first thing that we saved in state, that keyword, has the value Hoth. If I come up here and I change this to be Luke, let's say I'm on the people page, I search, there we go, state changed in Luke, which updated the state in app and then came back as a prop and was set here. Now Luke was replaced with Luke, so we didn't really see a change, but it did happen. The re-render did happen with the new value for props. Okay, so we have that part working. We're submitting. Now I want to be able to use that data inside of films, people, planets. So that app.keyword, that value, I have to pass that down now to these other components. That one's actually going to be a fairly simple one. Inside of main, inside of here, this is where I'm going to have to add on. Now, every one of these searches, the fetches that I do, the Star Wars API works by just doing this. Search equals, and then you pass in whatever the keyword is going to be that you're searching on. So we'll have to pass in a keyword. So main needs to get the keyword from app. Keyword, there's our variable. And in the same way it was passed to search bar, we're going to pass it down to here. Okay, that's done. We've got keyword now being passed down to main. Main can now use keyword. So let's extract it from props. Now I have my variable keyword that I can put inside of here. Compiled with warnings. Probably just because we haven't completely finished this. Oh, useEffect has a missing dependency, input ref. Oh, that was an old one, we fixed that. useEffect is missing the keyword dependency. Yes, because we've added keyword in here, we now need that as a dependency. So every time keyword changes, that's going to trigger this use effect to run again. Great. Okay, so clear, we'll refresh this. I'm on the planet list. If I search for Hoth, there we go. The search got run with Hoth. If I go to people, yeah, there's no people for Hoth. If I search for Luke, that's going to work. I go over to films, there's nothing. I have to delete this and actually submit to get the full list. So that's the part that we want to use our ref to actually clear out the old form. I don't want to have that anymore. I want to make sure that I clear that out. So I have to empty the value. If I change my route, if I go from people to films to planets, as I change between those, that's going to be my trigger to clear that state value out. All right, so let's quickly fix this up. We're going to do that up here inside of our app. I'm going to use useEffect here again. And I'm going to run a function every time my route changes. That's going to be my path name. So I'm going to do the same thing here that I was doing, I think here. Yes, there it is. So the same thing that I'm doing on main to figure out which fetch I should be doing, I'm going to be doing it here. I will get my current path and look at it and figure out where it differs. And if that first part differs, then that's what I want to change. So we need use location from React Router DOM. That's our first one from that. There we go. So our use location is giving us path name. Inside of our function here, we're going to look at, so if I have a route like this, and that goes to something like films, change keyword. If I'm on something like planets, and I go to a route that looks like planets/5, I don't want to change keyword. That's what we're trying to achieve here. And use effect, I will need that. Okay. So inside of our function, we're going to look at that route. So what is our new route that we've got? Because path name has changed, so let's take a look. We'll say path name dot split, and we're going to split it on this. Path name is going to be something that looks like this. It's going to be /planet/planet/5, something like that. When you call split, you're creating an array out of this string. And because it starts with a slash, part number 0 in the array that we get is going to be empty. There's nothing in front of the first one. So we want part 1. We want the thing that comes after the first slash. So let's do this. Let's say number 1. I'm going to call it new path. And then my old path, I want to know what it was before. So how am I going to do that? What am I going to break apart? Well, here's a good opportunity to use a state variable. So my state variable, I'm going to extract from that the old path. So we'll say const path, or we can call it page and set page. I'm going to create a state variable, and its initial value is going to be whatever the current path name is. So when it first loads, the very, very first load, what's the current path? Okay, and that's going to go into page. And so here I can take whatever it was before, and I split it on that slash, and we get part number 1. So here's what it was before. It's just changed. Now I can compare these two things. So I can say if new path does not equal old path. And I'm not comparing the whole path, I'm just comparing that part in the middle, this planets, films, not the 5, not the stuff that comes afterwards. It's just these two parts. If this part changes, like planets to films, now is when I want to do this. So now I know it's been changed, so I can update it and set path name. So I've updated it. Next time I run this code, I'll have that new value. And we can say, I'll just put this in here so we see it showing up in the console. Else console log did not change. I'll say same base path. Okay, we have those working. And what else do we want to do? Keyword. That was the whole point of doing all this, was so that we could clear out the keyword. If I change the path, I'll call setKeyword to an empty string. If I've called setKeyword, it means I've changed the state, which is this keyword, which is what's getting passed down into both the search bar, so that will clear out the search bar, and it'll clear out the one for main, which is the one that gets used for all the fetches. Okay, so I'm here, and I've got... let's do Hoth again. I search for Hoth. That works. Same base path. Okay, I was on planets. I'm still on planets. I do another search. Search for Dagobah. Yep. Okay, worked. Didn't change it. If I go to people, there we go. I've changed the path. I went from planets to people. If I go from... Here, let's say if I search for Darth. Okay, great. That worked. I changed, or I stayed the same here. I'm still on Darth. I did change it. I click on Darth, but it stayed there. It's the same base path. I click on this. I've changed it, but it's the same base path. I can go back and forth between these things. And it's not until I change the base part, go from people to films, now is when this thing gets cleared out. So let's make that one change right here. We're missing page from our use effect. We are using page right here. So we can put that in. Actually, no. We're not going to put page in here. We don't want page as a dependency because we're calling set page inside of here. And if I make page a dependency, this is going to trigger a re-render. So we're not going to put that in there. We do not want that. Okay, so we have all this. And now we have app is rendering search bar, passing that down. And this brings me back to the refs. So that keyword is being used down inside of search bar. We're using it to update the value here. We called createRef, and then this is how we attached this thing to the ref that we created. There is one other way of doing this. There's another thing called ref forwarding, where in this case, it doesn't really matter to me. I like working with the ref inside of here. Here's where I'm getting the submitted value. Here's where I'm changing the submitted value. But if in the rare chance that you're building something and right here up inside of app I need to get a ref of something inside of search bar so I can work here with that ref. If that is the case, if you need to do that, ref forwarding is the way that you can do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this right now. I'm going to commit this as the finished code, and then I'll show you the couple little changes. I'm not going to save the changes because we're going to start the next one with the code that we have right here. So just let me quit this, and I will put everything into the repo. There we go. All right, so that's done. That's saved. The finished version of that, that's down in the description. The link to the GitHub repo, episode 12 branch, that's up there for you. So now the ref forwarding. Right now, I'm loading search bar. Okay, great. What I can do here is I can, up inside of app, do that createRef thing. So we'll say const sb input ref. So my search bar input ref equals react.createRef, same as what we were doing before. We're creating a ref, just like this. I will have to import that from React to be able to use it. createRef. And there's also another one called useRef. This is one of the new hooks. So we've got createRef and useRef. The alternative syntax to this, instead of just calling createRef, we could do this. Const my search box input ref is useRef. Now, both of these are effectively doing the same thing. They're creating that reference box for us to use. The difference between the two of them is that this one holds references to DOM elements. This one holds references to anything that you want. Let's say you wanted some sort of global reference. You've got a timer that's going to run and you want to be able to reference that timer. Well, you can create a reference to the timer that you can then pass around and use and do stuff that you'd like. So it works with things beyond just DOM elements. But otherwise, it's effectively the same thing. So I am going to take this ref that I created and I'm going to pass it down here. So search bar. And I'm going to say ref equals this. There we go. I am now passing my reference object down into main, or into search bar rather. So from app down into search bar, we're passing this ref. Now, inside of here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that ref that I passed in. And instead of input ref, I could use the one that I'm passing in, and it's going to be there inside of the props that are passed in. And how do we get it from there? It's not props like this. What we do is, instead of writing the function like this, we write it like this. We say react.forwardRef, and inside of the forwardRef method, we create a function. Now I can call it search bar, and it's not just going to have props, it's also going to have the ref object that's being passed in. So ref is going to be like this. So function search bar, now I've got my function wrapped inside of this forwardRef method. So if I shrink everything down here just to make it a little smaller, this forwardRef now is sort of like a wrapper around all of it. And I haven't imported React or forwardRef, so I can just add that in here. forwardRef. There we go. Now I have forwardRef is passing into this function. Whether or not this thing has a name, it can be an anonymous function like that. You're passing in this. This could be an arrow function as well. So the ref, whatever the name of it is here, that's what you put inside your element that you want to be the ref. So it's going to take it from here and go back up and forward that ref, or populate the ref that was forwarded from app down into here. The only downside about using an anonymous function here is if you look at it in the props. So I need to do this, or I want to, sorry, not that, it's called search bar. There we go. If you do this, if you give it a name here, when you're looking in the dev tools, Down inside of here, there's my app, there's my nav, search bar. There we go. We've got search. Oh, I've got to restart this. Oh yeah, I've got input ref and other stuff inside of here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment out a few things that I'm not using. My use effect. Everywhere I was using that input ref, the one that I created in here. So I just got to remove all those things. I think that's all of them. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we've got header, we've got nav, and search bar. Now, because I gave it the name, it's going to show here as search bar instead of just forwardRef. Without the name, search bar, I mean, we're exporting it. Export default, this thing. So we're giving it a name up here. There it is. We're giving it this name. This name, if it was just an export, not an export default that we were trying to get, we would have something in there in the tools called forwardRef. By naming it here, we're making sure that we're going to get that name search bar in the dev tools. Okay, so ref forwarding, not that common, but it is something that you can use. You can use createRef in the parent element and then use the ref attribute in your component to pass that ref down. And then if you do it this way, what you need to do is you need to wrap your function component inside of the method forwardRef. It will be passed not just props, but also the ref that you passed in. All right, and that's it. So that is createRef, useRef, and how to pass the refs around and use them. Remember, you'll probably at some point forget to add this current attribute or property inside of the ref to get to the value or to call one of the methods. Like we can do things with the ref. So input ref.current, I can call the methods that would exist on it. Focus, blur, reset, things like that. So we have not just the properties, but also all the things in the DOM like methods that you would get. All right, so hope that helps you understand a little bit more, and hope it also helps you understand passing the values for state with the keyword and then using them in other components as well. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments. I answer as many as I have time for. And as always, thanks for watching.